because you know that would have been the reasonable choice. I have knitted this way faster than I should have. Don't do what I did. Hi and welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Mathilde, I'm a French knitter, and if you're not new here, thank you so much for coming back, I really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed already, I would really appreciate if you did, and that way you can make sure you don't miss any future content. But today I'm just going to share with you a regular knitting podcast format. So I'm going to talk about my finished object, which I'm wearing, a whip that you've seen before, and a new cast on, and then some acquisition for future test knits. So let's jump straight into it, shall we? My finished object in this podcast is my Solene Cardigan. This is a pattern by Morecaknit, which I've knit in Pura Lana by Gepard. Gepard Garn in the colorway 101, which is 50% wool, 50% alpaca, and I've paired it with Knitting for Life compatible cashmere in the colorway cream, and it is 100% cashmere. It's a lace weight and the Pure Lana is a DK weight. Both are incredibly soft and together they form just the most perfect cardigan. I have knitted this way faster than I should have, and we're gonna go back to that a little bit afterwards, but let me show you what it looks like. So the Solene cardigan, I'm not sure exactly what construction it is, because you do make those tiny triangles at the top of the shoulders before you knit the back panel, joining the two triangles together, and then you knit both front panels one at a time, obviously. It's been a while. I think there are German short rows at the top of the back panel. Those triangles especially are made with short rows, and then also I think on the top of the shoulder, and then you just join in the round, not really because it's a cardigan, under the arms, and then you just knit, and once you've reached the length that you want, you do a very short amount of ribbing, same as on the sleeve. The sleeves are quite wide, as you can probably tell, and they do have a few decreases in them, and then same thing are finished with this small ribbing, and then you, or at least that's what I did at the end, is pick up stitches for the button band, which isn't really a button band but like the front edge, which is double knitting, and then you knit those, or that little I-cord that you attach. So I'll show you afterwards how it's attached, but in the pattern you're supposed to do 2 ties. I opted just for 1 because I thought sometimes I might want to wear the cardigan with the tie undone, and I thought 1 is already a little bit weird if you wear it undone, and 2 would be even more so, and I just thought 1 would suit me more, and I love it. I love everything about this cardigan. I love how wide it is, while it's not being an overwhelming amount of positive is. It's very comfortable to wear, it's very easy to throw on a t-shirt, a camisole like I'm wearing now, or even just a dress, because it's sort of cropped, but it does still keep me pretty warm, and it is incredibly soft. Obviously with that comes the peeling, so it does peel quite a bit, which, I mean, that's the decreases here, but I think here you can see a little bit of the peeling. It's not too bad. It hasn't bothered me as much as other garments I've had before peel does, but it does peel, so I did want to mention that. But the combination of these yarns is absolutely amazing. I'm definitely going to use the Pure Lana again. I do have 1 ball left of this one and a little bit more of it. And for the compatible cashmere, I bought 10 initially because it was meant for another project. So I only used a little bit less than 6, so I've got 4 and a bit left. So I think I'll either make a neck scarf out of it, or I need to check if I have enough to make a bralette, because I think in cashmere that would be very lovely. So this is very expensive, so I'm not going to use it often, but the Pure Lana is amazing, and I'm definitely keen to use it again in another project. Let me show you how the ties are attached. This is how they're attached, which was definitely a little bit tricky just to get in the exact same position. She does mention that for the first one, which is the only one that I made, you're supposed to do it at the same level as the last increase on the v-neck. And I had only seen that towards the end of the pattern when I had already finished all of the body of the cardigan. And so I think next time, if I were to make this again, which I very well might, I probably will put a stitch marker at that point on the last increase, so that way when I go back to it at the end to add the tie, it's easier to do so. I used, I think, 5mm needles, and I knitted a size small. And I forgot to mention, because I had mentioned it in the vlog and I forgot that I hadn't mentioned it in the podcast, but I had made a mistake at the bottom of the front panel. So I had done the left first, and when I reached the bottom I just did something wrong, and I only realized once I reached the same point on the right panel, and I read through the pattern, I was like, oh no, I misread that. So I made the same mistake on purpose on the right panel, and it was the increases for the armholes were supposed to be at a different interval than the increases for the v-neck, and I misread that, and I didn't do as many increases for the armholes as I should have. So I did the same mistake on the right side, which was fine. And then when I joined in the round under the arms, I decided to add those stitches back. You know, when you add, usually when you join the front panels and the back panel, you add some stitches using the backward loop method. So I just added more. I think actually I shouldn't have done that because it's looking a bit odd. I mean, I think only you and knitters will know, but I'm gonna show you. I think you can see here. Yeah, it's definitely looking a bit odd. It's not too bad because it's under the arms and you can't really see it unless you look for it, but I know it's there. I think next time I should just, if I make a mistake like that, I shouldn't add the stitches, because at least for this one it would have been fine regarding the positives. So, but you know, we live and we learn. I will say the pattern was incredibly clear. It was lovely to read through and to have. There were video instructions for every technique, and most of them, I think, if not all, are related especially to this cardigan. So it's, I think, even easier when you have a video tutorial that is precisely about the garment you're making, because it helps you visualize how to do it even better. And especially the one for attaching the tie was very helpful. And I love the format of Morecaknit's patterns. This is my second Morecaknit patterns in just a few months, and I'm already eager to knit something else by her. So let's run through the spec of this cardigan. So I got the Pura Lana and the compatible cashmere for a total of 97.05 euros, which was, I think the compatible cashmere had a little bit of a discount, so it was around 23 euros for all 10 balls. Here I'm only counting 6, so a little bit less than 23 euros total. And for the Pura Lana, I used a gift card of 60 euros, so I only really paid 20 euros. So that would be, that would be about 97.05, but otherwise would have been more expensive. And then this was on my needles for only 12 days, which wasn't a great idea. I cast this on as part of a knitting video challenge that I wanted to make for myself, just to see how much I could actually get done in 12 hours of knitting. I didn't get any hand pain or wrist pain or anything whilst doing that video, but I think for the next few days afterwards I finished the body in like 2 days, and then I just really whipped through the sleeves and the finishings without really taking breaks, or but without really meaning to, just because I think when you're knitting on something and it's going by so quickly, you're kind of thrown into that quickness. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. And so I was just so eager for the result that I kind of knitted pretty quickly, and now my arm hurts a bit. So I've been trying to take it slow. You'll see that I haven't really managed that, but I have tried. I think now I'm definitely going to need to stop knitting for a bit. I've not knitted at all today, and I think I might not knit for the next few days just to make sure I don't hurt myself too badly. But yeah, don't do what I did and knit too quickly, because that's never a good idea. And also, whilst it was really pleasant to have a finished object so quickly, because I was so eager to have this project in my wardrobe, and I'm really happy that I managed to finish it in time for me to actually wear it a few times before it gets too warm. I think it did take a little bit of the joy out of knitting, because now I'm already done with this pattern and I kind of want to make it again, which might happen sometime in the future, not right now because I don't have yarn in stash for it, I don't think, and I would really like to prioritize my stash now because it's growing and I don't want it to grow more than that. But yeah, anyways, so I think this is a 5 out of 5 for me. I loved the knitting process of it. Even though it was quick, it was really enjoyable anyways. It was really nice to have stockinette on the needles, and as I said, the pattern was really clear, was really easy to go through, and I love the finished object that I have. I've been wearing it quite a bit already, at least 5 times, and it's been, I think, a week since it's been blocked. So yeah, I really love it. Let's move on to the first whip that I want to share with you today. I'm not going to share all of my current whips because some of them I've not actually touched, or not so much that there's a ton of progress, to be honest. Even the one I'm going to show you now, it's not had that much progress on it. I've mostly been focusing on this project over not the previous week, but the one before that. And then over the past week, I've focused on my new cast on, and so I've just not had a ton to show you, but I thought maybe this one would be interesting. I am knitting the mixed Rib Cami by Florence Miller, which is a lovely camisole with like a boat neck and a mix of ribbing, which is like half twisted rib and, you know, some pearls and everything. I am using Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the colorway Thundercloud. This is 70% organic cotton and 30% extra fine merino. It is very soft, very lovely to work with. I'm very excited to wear this. However, as I've said, I've not done that much progress on it actually, so I don't know when I'm going to be able to wear it, but yeah. So last time I saw you, I think I had about just started the front panel. I've done about, I forgot to put a stitch marker last time, but I think I've done about 5 centimeters maybe. I think I need about 15 centimeters before I can do the increases for the armholes and join in the round, which is something I'm really excited to do. However, knitting on these tiny needles, because I am using the recommended needles, which is 3mm or US 2.5. So I'm using 3mm, which is US 2.5, and I'm knitting the size 4, hoping to have the size 3, because my gauge is a bit tight as usual, but I didn't want to go up another needle size because it's already a little bit see-through, as you can probably see. So yeah, not a ton of progress. It's been hurting my hands a little bit to work on this, I think because of the mix of ribbing, but it's absolutely stunning and I would really like to wear it when it's warm outside, so hopefully I will be able to pick it back up soon-ish. But the reason why this one hasn't been getting a lot of work done on it is because I cast on a new project using the yarn I showed you at the end of last podcast, which was a new acquisition. I'm going to share the yarn first. So in the last podcast I showed you I got Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino and Soft Silk Mohair in the colorway Dusty Banana. The Heavy Merino is a DK to worsted weight yarn, like a very heavy DK weight, 100% merino wool, and the Soft Silk Mohair is 70% RMS certified mohair and 30% cruelty free silk. I love this combination, I've talked about it before. I fell in love with this colorway when everyone was talking about the butter yellow trend, and I thought I really wanted to make the Tulip loop v-neck by Other Loops, which is what I did. And remember when I told you I was trying to take it easy to not hurt my arm more? Yeah, that didn't really happen because this is what I've got. So, when I finished the Solene cardigan, I was so happy. And I thought about not casting something new on because, you know, that would have been the reasonable choice. However, the only projects I have on my needles otherwise are the mixed Rib Cami, which is on 3mm, and the Morecaknit cardigan, which is on 3.5mm needles. And when I was finishing on this one, but taking the mixed Rib Cami here and there whenever I had a small amount of time to work on it, the mixed Rib Cami was hurting my wrist a little bit, and I thought maybe it was because of the small needles. So I thought, instead of hurting myself more, and whilst waiting for yarn to come in for a test knit, which I'll show you afterwards, I thought I might as well cast this one on, because this is knit on 5mm or 5.5, 5mm needles, or US 8. And yeah, this is what happened. So this is my first time knitting a pattern by Other Loops, and it's not the clearest. It's not the worst, but it's a bit lacking, and I did find a mistake in the pattern. So first of all, this is a cabled jumper. It doesn't have any chart, which sometimes is fine, but for some instructions, some written instructions, I do find that some of them is a bit lacking. Or if this was to be one of your first knitting patterns to read, or your first cable project, I wouldn't say is the most intuitive. Like, you have to know a little bit what you're doing, because for example, sometimes she says do this cable here, the small one is done more regularly than the big one, obviously, as you can see, but this one is done at the same time as one of these. But sometimes she doesn't really mention that. You have to know that this one is repeated X amount of times, and that means that when you're doing this one, you have to do this one as well. It's not very clear in the pattern, so I think if you know what you're doing, you'll know. But if it's one of your first patterns and you don't really know how to read patterns, it might be a little bit less obvious. And then the last thing, it's a small mistake in the pattern, but at the bottom of the right panel, it says to do the increases for the armholes here instead of at the armholes. So obviously, if you're not paying attention, you could make that mistake. I kind of figured it out because I did the left panel first, and that one is on at the end of the row that you're doing the increases for the armholes. And so when I read that same line for the right panel, I was like, that doesn't really make sense. And I looked at my knitting and I saw that it didn't make sense. So you can notice it, but it is a mistake in the pattern. So I thought I would mention that. But let's talk about the construction and how it looks and everything. So you start with the back panel, you cast on the large number of stitches, and then you do some German short rows to shape the back, and then you just knit. Because of those German short rows, that's why you don't have any cabling on the big cable at the top. So you can see that this stretch of this is a bit hard to show. This stretch of stockinette is longer than the one in between each cable, and that's because of the German short rows. And as I said, you do have this tiny cable. I think the number of ribbing that you have at the side depends on the side you're making. My gauge is a bit off. I only went up to a 5mm. I usually would go up to a 5.5, but I thought the fabric looked a bit too see-through for what I wanted, so I'm using just one size up from the pattern. I think it's supposed to be 4.5. But I'm knitting the size 3, hoping to get a size 2. I think I'm about there. It's definitely oversized, but not hopefully too much. I'm happy with the fit as it is now, at least. And then you have some armhole shaping. And then you pick up for the left panel, the left front panel, And you can probably tell I'm so happy with how I picked up my stitches because it looks perfect. And then you shape the v-neck with those increases that you see here. And then at the bottom you have some armhole increases as well. And same thing for the right panel. And you can probably tell you have some increases which are done in the pearl, and then I'm gonna have a stockinette panel down the body. I've just joined in the round, which is really exciting, and I've just finished. I think this is my third skein of the heavy merino, which I've just finished. So I think next up, whenever I pick this back up again, I'll do the neckline, because I'm very eager. This is my first time knitting a v-neck sweater, so I'm very eager to see how that looks. But I'm very happy with how it's looking so far, and I can't believe I've done so much of it already. It's a little bit insane. However, it's knit on pretty large needles, and I've been pretty much only knitting on this. I've been pretty stressed, so I've been knitting a lot, even though I probably shouldn't have, because as I said, my arm hurts. But I'm gonna, whenever my arm feels a little bit better, I'm gonna actually start on my test knit. So maybe let's talk about that. A couple of months ago, I don't even remember exactly when, but I test knitted for Joanne, who has the knitting podcast channel called Tux Knits, and I think that's the same username on Instagram. She's a very lovely newer designer. She's already released a few accessory patterns as well as a few sweaters now, and they all look so amazing, and she's offered for me to test knit for her again, which I was very happy to do. So I'm going to be testing for her the Amara vest, which is a v-neck slipover with the top half being stockinette and the bottom being reversed fisherman's rib or reverse half fisherman's rib. I never remember. So I just got some of the yarn in the mail, and I'll get into why only some a little bit, but this yarn was sponsored for the test knit by Isair. So the first yarn that I'm going to use is Isair Jensen. Look at this color. I think it's going to be perfect. I almost didn't pick out this color, but I asked my partner what he thought I should choose, and he picked this blue. So if you're excited about seeing more colors from me, you have to thank him for that, because I wasn't quite sure whether this would suit me or not. I'm actually thinking it might, but we'll see when I knit it up. Anyways, so this is Jensen by Isair in the colorway 44S. Jensen is 100% pure new wool. I've used it before for my jacket number 2 by My Favorite Things Knitwear, and I love this yarn. It's stunning. And I'm gonna pair it with Silk Mohair by Isair. Unfortunately, they sent me the wrong color, so I'll show you, but it's not gonna be this pairing together. But this is the Silk Mohair by Isair, which is 75% kid mohair and 25% silk. This one is in the colorway 44. And I think there was a mistake somewhere. I asked for the corresponding color, which is 54, and they sent me this one. So I just mentioned it to Joanne because I was like, I don't want you to be surprised when you see my finished garment, which is not going to look as bright as it should. And she reached out to Isair, and they are sending me the correct mohair, so I should hopefully get it soon, because the test knit is supposed to be finished at the end of the month, and I haven't even started yet. So hopefully I can get it, and by the time I get it, I will be better and be able to knit. But I'm very excited about this project. This yarn is amazing. They very graciously allowed me to keep this mohair, so I kind of already have an idea for what I'm going to use it for, but it won't be right now because I do have this test knit before anyways. So yeah, I think maybe in the next podcast there actually won't be that much to talk about, because I'm going to be focusing on this for the next 2 weeks. So let me know if you still think you'd be interested in a podcast, even though I might only talk about one project. Or would you guys rather a knit and chat maybe we could do? So if you have any questions, you can leave them down below, and I might pop an Instagram question box next week or something. Now, Joanne has a lot of amazing design ideas, which I'm always so curious about, because I feel like, especially for a new beginner, I didn't expect her to be releasing patterns so frequently, in the beginning at least. And so she's also asked me to test knit her another design, which I don't know how much I can tell about. She's posted a few hints at it already on Instagram, but I'll just show you the yarn that I got because I did receive it yesterday, but the test knit isn't meant to start right away. So the test knit is also sponsored, but this time by Onling. So I got the number 21, which is 60% cotton and 40% linen, and I got it in the army green colorway, which again I think it's going to suit me. This is for a blouse slash dress. I think I'm gonna have the choice to make either one. We'll see when I get the pattern what I choose. But yeah, I'm very excited to try out another summer yarn. This one definitely feels a bit more rough than, for example, the cotton merino by Knitting for Olive, but obviously it doesn't have any merino in it, so I think that's probably why. And I don't think I've ever used a mix of cotton and linen before, so I'm definitely excited to try it and let you know what I think about it. I think this is a fingering weight yarn. So yeah, I don't think it's gonna be right away because I think she's still writing up the pattern and working on it, but I'm ready to cast this on whenever she sends me the pattern, so that's nice. So I think this is a bit of a shorter episode than usual, but as I said, I haven't actually done a ton of work on many whips. I think that's one thing I might do in the future, is try and focus on one project at a time. I don't think I'll only focus on one because I don't think that will be very exciting for you guys, and I do like switching up between projects, but I have found that because I focused on this one a lot and then on the Tulip loop v-neck, it is quite rewarding to only work on one project at a time. So we'll see how that goes in the next few weeks, and I'll keep you guys posted as always. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!